Have you ever looked around and thought, why am I even doing this? You wake up, go to work, scroll through your phone, maybe laugh a little, maybe cry a little, but deep down something feels off. You're moving, but not going anywhere. Achieving, but not feeling fulfilled. Surrounded, yet still alone. Let me tell you something, you don't feel lost because you're broken. You feel lost because you haven't found your purpose. Too many people confuse a job with their life's work. A job is something you do to survive, but your work, your real work, is tied to your identity. It's the reason you were born. It's the gift inside you that was never meant to stay hidden. The world has trained us to chase titles, salaries, and status. But none of those things will anchor your soul. Because when you live for applause, you die when it gets quiet. The truth is, you are not here by accident. You're not random. There's a reason you were born when you were, where you were, with the talents and quirks you have. But you'll never find that reason if you're too busy being what the world expects. Lack of purpose is one of the most subtle yet powerful sources of emptiness in a person's life. It doesn't show up as loud or obvious. It often hides behind routines, accomplishments, and even smiles. But beneath the surface, it slowly chips away at a person's energy, clarity, and joy. When someone lacks purpose, they might still appear busy, active, or even successful, but deep inside, they feel as if they're drifting like a boat with no anchor or direction. Purpose is the internal compass that gives meaning to everything we do. It's not just about having goals or dreams. Those are things you can chase and achieve. Purpose is deeper. It's not something you choose, it's something you discover. It's the answer to the question, why am I here? And when that question goes unanswered, life starts to feel like a never-ending cycle of activity with no fulfillment. Without purpose, time feels wasted even when you're doing something. There's a constant feeling that you're supposed to be somewhere else, doing something more significant, even if you can't quite define what that is. The days blur together, and even the victories lose their shine quickly. A new car, a raise, a vacation, they may bring a temporary high, but without a sense of deeper meaning, the satisfaction fades quickly. There's no lasting peace or joy, just momentary distractions. People without purpose often seek to fill the void with noise, scrolling endlessly through social media, binge-watching content, or constantly staying busy so they don't have to confront the silence. But that silence, as uncomfortable as it may be, is often the very space where clarity begins. Unfortunately, most people never pause long enough to hear what their own soul is trying to say. A life without purpose is reactive rather than intentional. You go wherever the wind blows, respond to whoever shouts the loudest, and follow trends instead of truth. Decisions are made out of fear, pressure, or comparison rather than alignment with inner conviction. You may find yourself constantly changing direction, one day trying this, the next day chasing that, never rooted in anything deeper than the surface. This lack of rootedness often leads to frustration, anxiety, and depression. When your life feels like it doesn't matter, you start to question your worth. When you don't know your purpose, you're more likely to accept anything that offers temporary relief, even if it's toxic, because even a false sense of direction can feel better than none. People stuck in purposeless living may tolerate unhealthy relationships, stay in draining jobs, or suppress their true gifts because they've never discovered what they were really made for. Children who are not taught to seek their purpose early often grow into adults who follow the crowd, chase trends, and live someone else's dream. And no matter how perfect their life may look on the outside, that unshakable sense of restlessness remains, because without purpose, no success is enough, no applause loud enough, and no achievement fulfilling enough. The soul continues to cry out for meaning, for direction, and for a reason to rise each morning with fire instead of fear. Confusing a job with life's work is one of the most common reasons people feel unfulfilled, despite being employed, paid, or even praised. A job is typically associated with a position you hold to earn a living. It comes with a salary, expectations, hours, and responsibility. Life's work, on the other hand, is tied to your identity, your passion, and the unique impact you are meant to make in the world. When people mistake their job for their life's work, they often settle for survival instead of pursuing significance. From an early age, society teaches individuals to choose careers based on what pays well, what's in demand, or what appears secure. Rarely are people encouraged to explore who they are, what they naturally excel at, or what deeply matters to them. As a result, many enter the workforce with no connection to their deeper calling. They pick a job because it was available or practical, and once they're in, they become dependent on the income, the benefits, and the routine. Over time, they begin to confuse that position with their purpose, assuming that what they do to earn money must also be what they were born to do. The danger in this mindset is that it causes people to stop seeking. Once a person equates their job with their purpose, they no longer feel the need to ask themselves the hard questions. What am I passionate about? What change do I want to make in the world? What breaks my heart enough to make me move? Instead, they focus on climbing the corporate ladder, hoping that more promotions or a bigger paycheck will eventually bring fulfillment. But it rarely does, because the soul cannot be satisfied by income alone. People can be successful by the world's standards and still feel a deep sense of inner emptiness. This confusion also creates fear. When a person believes the job is their life's work, the threat of losing that job feels like the loss of identity. They may stay in roles they hate, tolerate environments that drain them, or silence their true gifts simply to hold on to a title or a paycheck. The idea of walking away or starting over feels terrifying because they've built their entire self-worth around what they do, not who they are. True life's work is rooted in purpose. It's the thing you would still do even if you weren't being paid, because it fulfills you on a level that money cannot. It's the intersection of what you love, what you're good at, and what the world needs. Life's work brings energy instead of draining it. Pulls you forward even when it's hard, because it's aligned with your inner truth. But when people confuse the job with their life's work, they often sacrifice their joy, their creativity, and their potential just to maintain a sense of stability. Over time, this disconnection shows up in the form of burnout, frustration, and even resentment. People start to dread Mondays, count the hours until the weekend, and dream of retirement, not because they're tired, but because they're unfulfilled. They go through the motions, doing what is required, but never feeling fully alive. The job becomes a cage rather than a calling, and the more time passes, the harder it becomes to imagine that something greater is even possible. Living by external validation means relying on the approval, opinions, and applause of others to feel valuable, worthy, or successful. It's a habit of measuring your identity and self-worth through how people respond to you, rather than from a deep understanding of who you are. This way of living is subtle and often begins early in life, as children are taught, intentionally or not, that praise equals value. When a child is only celebrated when they get good grades, behave a certain way, or win at something, they may start to believe that love and worth are tied to performance. As people grow, this mindset matures into dependence on external cues. Compliments become the fuel. Likes, followers, promotions, attention, all become signs that one is doing something right. But the moment those responses stop or slow down, insecurity creeps in. The person begins to question themselves. Am I still good enough? Am I still important? Instead of living with confidence and clarity, they begin to live with anxiety, constantly adjusting who they are to meet someone else's expectations. When someone lives for validation, their decisions are no longer rooted in authenticity. They might choose a career, lifestyle, or even relationships based on how it will be perceived, rather than what truly fits their soul. They dress to impress, speak to be accepted, and sometimes even betray their own values to avoid judgment. This creates a life that may look polished on the outside but feels hollow on the inside. Because when you build your identity on other people's opinions, you're always at their mercy. The applause may feel good, but it's fleeting, and it often fades as quickly as it came. This pattern also leads to emotional exhaustion. Trying to please everyone is impossible, And yet someone living for external validation will often try. They fear rejection so deeply that they become people pleasers, bending and shrinking themselves to avoid disapproval. In doing so, they lose touch with their own voice, their boundaries weaken, their confidence erodes, and their ability to say no diminishes. They become who others want them to be, not who they truly are. Over time, living this way creates inner conflict. A part of them begins to resent the image they've created, even if it's praised. They might feel stuck in a persona that no longer fits or maybe never did. Yet the fear of disapproval keeps them locked in. Social media intensifies this pressure. It rewards appearance over authenticity, popularity over purpose. People start curating their lives for likes, showing highlights instead of truth, crafting a version of reality that's pleasing but not always honest. And behind every perfect photo, there's often someone wondering if they're enough without it. The danger in living by external validation is that it keeps people disconnected from their true calling. Purpose rarely looks perfect. It often requires risk, rejection, and walking a different path. But when someone is addicted to being liked, they avoid that path, even if it's the one that leads to meaning. They sacrifice depth for acceptance, calling for comfort. And while they may receive temporary affirmation, they miss the lasting fulfillment that comes from living a life that's true to who they are. Ignoring inner gifts and passions is one of the most damaging forms of self-neglect a person can experience, though it often happens quietly and gradually. Everyone is born with unique abilities, talents, and interests, natural inclinations that hint at what they're meant to do in life. These gifts might show up early through a love for drawing, speaking, building, organizing, caring, writing. But over time, due to societal pressure, expectations, or the fear of failure, many people push those gifts aside in favor of what seems safer or more acceptable. This act of ignoring what's inside often begins in childhood or adolescence. A child may love storytelling, but be told to focus on science because it's more practical. A teenager might have a gift for music, but be urged to pursue law or medicine for status or financial stability. Bit by bit, the inner flame starts to dim, not because it stops burning, but because the person is taught to believe that their passion isn't enough, isn't valuable, or isn't realistic. The danger is that they eventually believe that lie. When someone suppresses their inner gifts, they begin to feel disconnected from themselves. Life becomes more about performance than authenticity. They start doing what is expected rather than what resonates with their soul. On the outside, they may function well, go to school, get a job, build a routine. But inside, there's a growing sense that something essential is missing. That disconnection leads to boredom, frustration, and often unexplained sadness. They might not even realize the cause of their discomfort because they've buried their true self for so long. People who ignore their gifts often find themselves admiring others who are living freely and passionately. They might feel a twinge of jealousy watching someone else use their creativity, speak boldly, lead confidently, or build something meaningful. That jealousy isn't rooted in bitterness. It's often a sign that their own gift is being starved. They're witnessing a mirror of what they're capable of, but have been too afraid or distracted to pursue. Over time, the longer a person avoids their passions, the harder it becomes to reconnect with them. They may feel too old, too busy, or too locked into their current lifestyle to explore what once made their heart come alive. They may even doubt that their gifts matter anymore. The world's noise can drown out the quiet calling of the soul until a person forgets it was ever there. This internal conflict can lead to anxiety, depression, or even a sense of hopelessness. Not because life is objectively bad, but because it lacks the color and energy that come from doing what you were uniquely designed to do. Gifts and passions are not just hobbies or side interests. They are clues to one's assignment in life. Ignoring them is like owning a treasure and never opening the box. It limits growth, dims joy, and creates a life that looks full but feels empty. Many people spend years chasing external success while leaving their deepest potentials untouched. They become experts at doing things they were never meant to master while neglecting the very thing they were born to share with the world. Being too busy to reflect is one of the most common reasons people feel disconnected from themselves and their purpose. In today's fast-paced world, we are constantly bombarded with tasks, deadlines, meetings, notifications, and demands from every direction. The culture of busy has become a badge of honor, as if filling every minute of the day with activity somehow equates to productivity or success. But in this rush, we often lose sight of what truly matters, and more importantly, we lose the space to understand who we are and what we really need. When someone is too busy to reflect, they are caught in a loop of reacting to the demands of life rather than responding to their own inner desires and questions. The day begins early, often with a rush to get things done, and ends late with more tasks left undone. The constant motion leaves no room for pause, for self-evaluation, or for simply being. Reflection requires stillness, the kind of stillness that has become increasingly rare in our world. But it is in this stillness where clarity emerges, when we can step back, look at our lives, and ask ourselves deeper questions about our choices, our goals, and the direction we are heading. Without reflection, we live life on autopilot. We go through the motions, following routines that may have once had meaning, but now feel like mere obligations. We react to what's in front of us without considering if it aligns with our true values or long-term goals. We may wake up every morning and hustle to meet deadlines, but somewhere along the way, we forget to ask why we're doing what we're doing. We become so entrenched in our to-do lists and busy schedules that we no longer recognize the difference between what we want to do and what we have to do. In this cycle, it's easy to lose touch with our passions, our desires, and even our core values. When we are too busy to reflect, we forget to check in with ourselves. Are we happy? Are we on the right path? Are we feeling fulfilled? We become so consumed with keeping up with the external demands of life that we forget to nurture the internal needs that sustain us. The result is a life that may look successful on the outside, but feels shallow on the inside. We may accomplish a lot, but without reflection, we never really stop to appreciate or understand the meaning behind what we've achieved. Moreover, busyness often leads to stress and burnout. When we are constantly moving, constantly doing, there is no space for rest or recovery. Our minds, bodies, and emotions become depleted because we are never given the chance to recharge or reset. Over time, this exhaustion takes a toll on our physical and mental health, making it even harder to reflect. The constant pressure to perform leaves us feeling disconnected, both from ourselves and from the world around us. We start to feel overwhelmed, anxious, and sometimes even resentful of the busyness that has consumed us. Reflection is essential for growth and personal development. It's the process through which we gain self-awareness, learn from our experiences, and make conscious decisions about the future. Without it, we remain stuck in the same patterns, repeating the same mistakes, and living on autopilot. We may even find ourselves looking back years later and wondering where the time went, realizing that we spent so much of it doing, but never truly living or growing. When we are too busy to reflect, we also miss the opportunity to celebrate our progress. We are often so focused on what's next that we forget to acknowledge how far we've come. Reflection helps us recognize our achievements, learn from our failures, and make adjustments where necessary. It gives us the clarity to see if we're truly living in alignment with our values or if we've strayed off course. Without this time for introspection, we lose the ability to adjust and move forward with purpose and intention. So, feeling lost in life is often a result of various interconnected factors, such as a lack of purpose, ignoring inner gifts, relying too heavily on external validation, and being too busy to reflect. These elements create a disconnection between who we truly are and how we live our lives. When we lose touch with our inner compass, we drift aimlessly, seeking fulfillment in external achievements or temporary distractions. But true fulfillment comes from within, through self-awareness, embracing our unique gifts, and aligning our actions with our deeper purpose. The path to clarity and direction starts with pausing, reflecting, and reconnecting with what truly matters. It's never too late to take the first step toward living a life that is authentic, purposeful, and deeply fulfilling.